Hello and welcome into the Sorare Data Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare, joined today by Harry Trades to talk about how hard Sorare should be. And Harry, I think everyone in the live chat is sitting there thinking, how hard is it to just start a stream at the time you tell everyone it should start? And so, yeah, my apologies for being 90 seconds late, which is, I believe, 13 and a half minutes faster than you yesterday, sir.
Yeah, I was very late. Yeah, I was beyond Lairdinho, wasn't I, yesterday?
Rescheduled Dino at that point.
Rescheduled. Yeah, in the Discord, I was like, I'll be on at 7, and then I noticed you guys were live, so I was like, no, let's do 7:30. Then I was like, you're live already. I'll do 7, and then I was like, actually, I need to line up build 7:30. So I messed them around too much yesterday, but I didn't realize you were live so early yesterday. I thought did you schedule it for 1, or am I just bugging out there? 1 Eastern, obviously.
We usually do 1 Eastern on Mondays, and yesterday I pushed it to 12, and I don't know why. Now that
maybe I assumed it was 1, but yeah, I was just surprised to see you live. So I was like, all right.
You're not the only one. Somebody else came in at 12:45, and they were like, "I thought I was early." And
yeah,
over. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess the 1 o'clock Monday, 1 Eastern on Monday, is what everybody's used to. So we'll just go back to that. Anyway, thank you to everybody for coming in. Kev Hurd, Limited Whale 5%, and DNP Donkey on the podium. Congratulations, you three. Just Mike it, as usual, just out of the podium for me. Mike, you got plenty of podiums. I have seen your podiums. Skazmo, what's up? Ricky, Hoodwink, Jordan, ZM Star. The game should be just hard enough that the player base does not completely riot. I guess just partially rioting is okay. Mr. A, Jamie, Tobias, who I have not called Tobias in years. Sorry, Toby. Raul, what's up? Mike Baston was down in your neck of the woods Sunday, Harry.
Ooh.
Do you think that's
Cardiff? I'm assuming.
I was going to say, I don't think it's current Harry
Could
Wood.
be, yeah, or it could be like legit my little town within Cardiff. Who knows?
Who knows? Harry's timekeeping has gone downhill since he got married. Coincidence? We'll just leave that one hanging, Harry.
Yeah, if I speak.
Marriage advice, sometimes you just got to let those go. Anyway, Quinny, what's up? Sorare Burrow, JB. Thanks everyone for coming in. Harry, topic for today came up partially from yesterday's show. It also was a comment that Keith made to me. I don't know if it was after the show yesterday, but it was less about, actually, there were a couple comments that I got from yesterday's show, kind of about the social side of Sorare. And it wasn't so much the actual social side of Sorare, but your social life outside of Sorare. And how much are you willing to dedicate to Sorare throughout the week that it starts to move into your non-Sorare time, let's say. And so you basically came up with the whole late swap discussion with Sean and I yesterday, where Sean was like, I would love late swap because I'm at my computer from 6 a.m. on Friday until 11 p.m. on Sunday. And so any late swaps during the weekend, I'm ready. I'm there. And I was like, I just kind of like to go outside sometimes. And the question today was not so much about how difficult it is to play Sorare, but it's almost like how much effort should be required for this game, not necessarily just to do well, because that's actually another thing I'll come into, but can you really build a platform where the expectation is that you're spending 40 hours a week playing this game?
I mean, the obvious answer that jumps to my head straight away is probably not, right? If you want this game to be like loved by the masses or played by the masses, whatever the masses mean, very, very subjective. But I just don't think does the Sean thing, does that apply to the majority, really? Like, I don't think it does, if we're being honest. Like, I don't think that many people have enough time, especially on the weekends when most games are playing, to be doing those type of swaps. And as much as I love tracking my lineups on the weekend, and there's pain involved when there's DMPs and all that stuff, I just don't think that pain is outweighed by the amount of effort that would take into like what your side of it is that I just don't have the time, or I don't really want to be spending it late swapping basically, which it's a really tough one. But I don't think it works. I don't think Sorare would ever really want that personally.
It's funny how you said that you don't have the time, like that you don't think people have the time to like do that throughout the weekend, because I probably do have the time. I just don't want to spend the time doing that, if that makes sense. Like if I'm sitting on the sideline watching my kids play football, I could go onto my phone and make a swap, and it's not that bad. What I don't really want to do is have to look down at my phone while my kids are playing, or I'm doing anything. I'm out to dinner with friends, just whatever people like to do. And I don't know. I just feel like there was a comment that Sean made, because we discussed like it would have to be a whole new game mode. So you would have classic, you would have in season, then you would have like late swap. And I was like, well, where do you put the best rewards? And he's like, obviously late swap, because that's where like the hardest working people will go. And it was like, is that right? Is that fair? Like, just because you are able to sit at a computer for 48 hours at a time and take 500 steps a day, you should benefit in this game for that reason?
I don't think so. I don't, because I think Sorare won this game to be quite social, especially rivals, like the whole like
Yeah.
in the pub and you're swapping, you're setting your lineups. Like I get that side of things. But from like the hardcore, pro standpoint, does that make a lot of sense? I just don't think it does. But then it goes back to like, are we talking about whale problems here? Like to the degree where, let's say, if you've got more than 5 lineups every week, that's 25 players that you could potentially be late swapping at a minimum. Never mind people with, 10 to 20, 30, 40, 50 lineups and the rest. So like, I think it's definitely an inconvenience for those type of people that play multiple lineups. If you've got 5 or less, is it that much of an inconvenience, really?
Maybe not.
Like, and then you go back to, well, the majority of people on this platform probably you have the stats, I don't know, 5 or less lineups every week. So it's like, ultimately, I need to cater for everyone, but ideally the masses, or like the majority, let's say. Is it that much of a crazy ask for them to do something like that, where at worst you only have to swap 25 players out? I don't, chances are you won't have to swap them all out, because you're doing something wrong if you haven't to swap that many out, right? But like, I don't know. I just think it gets tough, doesn't it? If you've got like a lot of lineups, that's where it just becomes like, like you say, why would I want to spend the time doing that? You might have the time, but why would you want to do that? I think the most obvious answer that we all end up coming to is it's just easier to have a deadline, like it, But then, I don't know. I've tinkered about the Premier League deadlines, and there's definitely things they can tinker with. Sean likes the whole summer thing. I think that's a great one. When like the MLS does it, like when Europe isn't playing, there's definitely things they could tinker with, 100%.
So the number of lineups, or excuse me, the number of managers that have 5+ lineups that I referenced yesterday, were basically at like 56% of people have 5 or more. So like more than half the player, like this, more than half of active Sorare managers are playing at least 5. And Stylish here says, I usually have 5 or 6 and I don't want to keep checking. So, and then Coltrane said, as a teacher, and shout out to teachers out there, in the week, it's really hard to keep on top because I have no time in the day to go on Sorare, which I'm assuming Coltrane is not in the US because it's school time right now, but you're watching the stream. So shout out for doing that as well. The one that got me is, or the thing that I keep going back to, and Mike was saying, it's, where was it? How much would late swaps actually affect who would be winning other than Wales winning more? And I think there's this expectation that because Wales have a ton of time and because they have a ton of, cards and money in the game, that they would like be on top of this. And what I went, like, as soon as I heard that, my thought is, and it's kind of the thought that I have when I see some of these galleries that have like $1 million galleries. If you have $1 million worth of digital player cards, obviously that's a gigantic amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, probably hoping, you have so much money that amount of money, not that it doesn't matter, but that you probably are doing things in your life that are more important than checking on your fantasy football scores throughout the weekend and having to make late swaps. So I would even argue that maybe some of the whales don't want late swap because they don't want to have to deal with that stuff on the weekend.
I think when you started saying that then about like other people having other things to do, like whale-wise, it just, my interaction with JR, Duke and Son, right, that I met in PSG. Shout out to those two. Like they were really nice guys. And I just get the impression that there's a lot going on, from a business standpoint. Okay. When Gundogan's an investor in one of your businesses, like, you're probably doing something right. That was just something he mentioned, but.
Well, did you see Gundogan today?
No.
I don't know if it was today. Ilkay Gundogan instant bought an entire Barcelona collection.
No way, did he? Wow. Okay. I mean,
Anyway,
I guess he has time.
Yeah.
But like, it just struck me that, they mentioned like a stupid amount of businesses, not in like a gloating way. It was just like, I just asked them what they do and, what's going on and stuff. And it just struck me that like, it's a fun thing for them to do. Like, I remember them telling me that, they let the little brother who's like 10 or something open all the rewards. And like, it's just like you said, the chances are if they got £1 million in Sorare, they haven't got time to be doing late swaps on the weekend. I can assure you that. I just don't think the opportunity cost is probably not there for them. Even though $1 million is a £1 million gallery is a lot, and there's money on the line and stuff, or cards or whatever. Like, it just strikes me that it probably doesn't even suit them. Like the mega whales. Like, we're not putting Sean in that category, really. Like, I'm talking like JR Duke, Roxy back in the day. Pranksy, obviously. I don't know. Maybe Pranksy has time. I don't know. I just don't think it's optimal for anyone, if we're being completely honest.
Well, and I think he was the first one to say this. Right. It's optimal for Sean. A quick aside here. This is Ilkay Gundogan bought, Fede Valverde, Yamal, Rafinha, Vinny, Jude. Bought all of these
market
today.
led or like instant buy, or
I think it was all instant buy.
Wow.
Just bang them all out. So it was, this Ederson was the first one.
The catalyst. I thought he had cards, or was that just?
He does. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's already had limited. Okay. Got you.
He saw the light. In-season rare for Ilkay Gundogan now. Let's go.
He must be chatting with Grimaldo about this. He has to be, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. If I'm a footballer...
Do you think Ilkay Gundogan wants to do late swap on the weekends? Come on, guys.
I wouldn't think so. Nah, surely.
Does he play? Never won a reward. Oh, but he has lineups this game week. Look at this.
Like, this is the content I want to be involved in. I want to be chatting with Grimaldo. I want to be chatting with Gundogan and just, talk me through your lineup building process. Why did you captain Foden? Like that would be, I think that would be great. I'm just surprised. Yeah, maybe they don't want to do it, but like, not just with me. I just mean with anyone. Like, I'm just surprised that that's not really a thing.
What?
Like, how, like, it was quite known, wasn't it, that Griezmann like loves Football Manager and stuff, and he's probably spoken about it publicly. I'm just quite surprised that Sorare somehow haven't wangled your Grimaldos and your Gundogans to, like, just speak about them playing the game in some way, whether that's on a Zoom call or whatever. I don't know. I think that they're missing a trick there, maybe, or maybe they can't do it.
Yeah. Did Greece sell his cards, or does he still have them?
I couldn't tell you, but he had a lot, didn't he?
He did at one point. I'm trying to think of like a single card because I don't remember. Oh, wait. Hold on.
He had some mega cards.
What was his name?
I couldn't tell you.
I thought it was like, oh, man. If anyone can remember, Gundo was in John's video today.
Oh, interesting.
It was a Sorare backed vid from what it's. I didn't even know John had a new video today. What is it on? What do you think some absurd thing that John Nellis is doing today?
Probably meeting a footballer of some sort.
I played. Cancel your flight, meet a footballer. Okay. All right. I'll check that out. Toby, I don't think Zlats is really Zlatan.
If there's one footballer in the world that doesn't have time for late swap, it's got to be Zlatan, hasn't it? Come on. Ex-footballer, sorry. He's. I guess he's retired now, yeah.
Sounds like he's got plenty of time. Kev said, has anyone seen Griezmann say to Mbappe in a plane that he just bought Mbappe for Newcastle? That was on Football Manager, right?
Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it?
Mbappe wasn't impressed. I believe that. Griezmann now retired from international duty.
Did see that, yeah. It's LAFC written all over it, isn't it?
Totally. Although, do they have a DC? I don't think they have a DP spot, do they?
Oh, yeah, maybe not. If Bogus leaves, maybe.
You know what city he really loves, though?
Go on.
New York.
He does.
City.
He likes the tube and stuff, doesn't he?
He does. He does. Just
saying. Yeah, New York City could do with him.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. The Neymar rumors have died down a little bit, as is his career.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah,
but there was this whole like, how hard should it be? Is like, obviously we want, like, you want to build a game that rewards people who spend the time and put the energy in. And I feel like Sorare does that with scouting, whether it's finding new players, looking at schedules, upcoming fixtures like Gator Guy was doing. Like there's a lot of things that you can do to get you ready for the week. I mean, I know we have midweeks as well, but like weekend game weeks feel like the important ones. Although with $4,000 and a star rare up for grabs this game week, you think that was a mistake? Sorry to cut off there.
I don't know, because they had a classic version of that comp, right? So
for Champions League?
No, for so that $4,000 this midweek is for Europa and Conference.
I know, but didn't they have it for Champions League? No.
What now? What did they have? Sorry, for Champ.
Like a big prize. Like that prize seemed too big for Europa and Conference League.
I think they started off the Champions League one with that 7K, wasn't it? And then they've gone, okay, because that week there was no Europa or Conference League, obviously. So this week there is. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just not making up for it, but I can't see them doing that for everyone.
Yeah.
You like to think, but I don't think it's a mistake. I think it's just like a, one-off, smash it out, and then because there's a classic version of that comp. I don't know. Obviously, it pays cards, I'm assuming, but I don't know if there's loads of stars at the top. I can't imagine there is, but
the cards in the in-season one feel so unnecessary.
And they were cards that aren't playing in those competitions. Like they were Champions League cards for the most part. So yeah, that's a weird one, but take it.
So going back to the whole like how hard you want to play this game, like we know you can play it very casually, and we know you can play it as hardcore as they come, but there seems to be a line somewhere where it just becomes too much, and I almost feel like the amount of work that you can do ahead of a game week like should be unlimited. You should be able to spend as much time as you want or as little time as you want in order to get your lineups ready to compete in SO5 competitions. Once that competition starts, I feel like you should get a break. And late swap or figuring out which subs to use during the game week or changing subs in the middle, using a sub in the middle of the game if that becomes a rule, like Rivals, like and Rivals gives you the opportunity to just keep going all the time.
Right, yeah.
But I don't know, I fear that a solution to a problem that exists ends up creating more issues than it solves an issue that people want solved, but also potentially creates a problem that is avoidable.
Right, but then the counter argument is, well, is the eradicating the DMP problem, like, does that outweigh these new problems that would arise, like you've kind of just alluded to there? Like, I don't know. I just think you mentioned you can do all the scouting in the midweek. You can do everything you want. You can prep. You can fixture this. You can do all the data analytics and everything you want. But if Mbappe decides that he's just ill one morning and he just isn't going to play and it's after the deadline, you're screwed. And I just think I know that is a risk that we all understand now. Like we do get it, but I just think from like a gameplay perspective, like Sean said yesterday, and I wasn't really shocked when he said it, in that like he probably wouldn't sign up to this game had he known about like that was a mechanic, if that makes sense. Prior to, I mean, yeah, I guess it was still a thing then. It just wasn't like, I don't know. Yeah, why isn't it? I don't know. Is it only something that we care about once like we've been in that position? Do you get what I'm saying? If you've never experienced like the negative side of having the DMP, would you tell Sean that when he's signing up to the game? Do you get what I'm saying?
I think Sean said that to prove a point that he doesn't actually believe it.
Well, you think he still would sign up? Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay.
He's gonna. I mean, now that he said it out loud, he will
yeah.
never, ever, ever even consider changing a hint of his thought. But like, he was on the platform for years before it was like, oh, DNPs kind of suck, and like we all know that they do. And in games that have deadlines before you know who's playing, they tend to have subs. And there was never like where do I put my sub? Like, that question never comes up for people. And I think you're right. Like, you don't realize it until you get one, and you're just like, oh, yeah, oh well.
I don't know. I just think it's just so from like I don't know, maybe from anyone's perspective, whether you've been playing for a while, but even beginners, like if I tell my friend that he only has one lineup, like I think that's where it becomes brutal, right? Like players who only have, let's say, less than 5 lineups, or less than 2, whatever, and they have a DMP in each one. Like, but they did all the research in the world, but they just were really unlucky. I know that might not happen every week because you can't be unlucky all the time. Like, it will go in your favor. But I just think from like just an enjoyment standpoint, man, like I just think Sorare missing a trick somewhere, but we know that like the solution isn't easy. Like, I don't know who mentioned it, but there was something where like you could, as far as the swaps go or the sub, like you have to buy it from the market, and like there's things I don't know, I'm sure there's something the Sorare could do eventually where we haven't thought about it yet. Like we didn't with list or play, like a lot of things they come up with. Like they are very, I give them kudos because they do come up with things sometimes that I'm very left field, but end up working for the most part. And I'm just like, surely there's something that they can work into their game and how they, revenue wise, that somehow, does not sort of get rid of DMPs, but somehow just lessens the impact. People, Sean mentioned subs, like how they get 35 now. And, arguably it doesn't really do too much, but from a visual standpoint, maybe it does. I don't know. I just think we're going to have to just live with it, right? A game can't be perfect. I think that's what we need to just maybe realize, and me, myself, for sure, like as much as I hate it when it happens to me, and I've obviously benefited from it. Sorry, I'm sure in other ways. I just think, the game has got so much better over the years. Like this might be just that one kryptonite that just might never be able to be eradicated. Like we just can't do too much about it, I don't think. And I don't know, it's tough, but like again, you either choose to continue playing it and just accept it, or you move on. Again, like I think somebody, who was it, Dan or someone, he said, I don't know who that was, but somebody worked at Sorare Data or something, and
that's what Sean said. Yeah,
but I don't know too many people that have left because of it. I don't speak to millions of people, but thousands of people. But yeah, I've never really heard too many people moan about that. Like that's one of the things I think people just accept because we have to. Like, what can we really do other than just take it on the chin and move on?
I wanted to highlight this comment from ZM Star. If I wanted to put even more work into the game, I would cancel my Sorare Data membership, which is just a great one.
That's fun.
I think one of the things that I hadn't thought of until just now, and it was actually partially from Quinny's video last week where he talked about the UKGC.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody with 2 lineups,
right,
you get a DNP in both. Obviously, you're not winning anything in that game week. You still own your cards, still have them for the next game week, and it's like you're not losing. I mean, obviously, you're losing an opportunity to win, but you don't lose your cards. You don't end up you don't lose some sort of entry fee. And so I appreciate the frustration of I can't win this week, but I also feel like that goes into and it's really just a mindset thing. And Sean and I have a very different mindset when it comes to this, that essentially, like, if he is in first place in whatever comp that pays $5,000 and someone passes him, I'm using Sean's example. Plenty of people feel this way. He feels like he lost $5,000, even though he didn't actually win it.
Yeah.
And so there's a difference between not winning $5,000 and losing $5,000. And I feel like the response to DNPs is kind of like Sean. I lost all of this money, when in reality, you really just didn't win that game week. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think it becomes even more of an issue or like a frustration when you've had the smasher matchup, right? Like you've got,
Sure,
like a 3-man stack or whatever. You've got the defensive stack of dreams, and they're at home and they're 80% on to win, and they do get the clean sheet, but the one defender was out because it was just something that completely was unforeseen, and you can't do any more than what you've done there. Like, you've done all the prep work, you've put yourself in the position where, like, I can't do much more. As of everyone else, of course, you've just got really unlucky on that weekend. And like you said, yeah, okay, you don't lose your cards or anything, but you lose the matchup, which is is big. Like, as much as it's not losing the card, it's losing a massive element of why you own that card. Realistically,
that's fair. Totally fair.
That would be the counter, wouldn't it? It's like you don't get that again. You might get it away, but it's not the same. And it's just like that's for me where it gets really frustrating. Like, you can take a DMP on the chin, but when it's like in a position where, like, you've done everything you can and it's just one of those like stupid ones where, like, yeah, he's got a snotty nose and he just don't feel like playing today. Like, that is just the one where you're like, he's at home to beer shoot, and it's just like, it's just a killer. It really is. And I mean, it doesn't change anything, but it's just ultimately, that's the frustration for me, is like, you're losing the matchup rather than losing anything about the card.
And I'll pile onto that you also probably get relegated. And if, like, you were in D1 with the perfect matchup, and then all of a sudden you don't get the benefit of that matchup, and now you're in Division 2.
So there is consequences to them. Like, they're way more of a negative than they probably once were. Like, yeah, okay, you're not going to win the $5,000, but ultimately, it's not so much you can't win the $5,000, it's you can't win the $5,000, or you can't even have a chance of winning the $5,000 next week because you got relegated, unless you have 2 D1 lineups or whatever. Right. So that there's just knock-on effects now, isn't there? That's the issue. Like, they are actually more of an issue in that, like, there's just knock-on effects to them, where before they were just like, the players out, whatever. You're in that, you'll be able to enter that competition next week, because there was no divisions or whatever. But now there's divisions and all that fun stuff. In some ways, there is massive consequences to it, as much as you've got to admit there is.
And so do you think that it's a issue that needs to be solved by player effort or Sorare effort? And I say that, like, if you want to get rid of DNPs, there is a solution, and it requires a lot more work from the user. And there is a solution, and that's like late swap is fully you put all of the effort into the hands of the users. Now, that. The other side is something like subs that you set ahead of time, and there's more, I don't want to say there's more strategic element, because there's plenty of strategy with late swap, but it's kind of a hands-off approach of, if my guy's out, put this guy in, and you set that before the game week, so that still the time that you are using is still kind of the deadline time, as opposed to the post. Like, somebody commented, where was this before? Basically, like, they're exhausted at the end of the deadline or at the deadline. And then it's like,
it's a relief. It's a nice relief.
Here we go. I can't imagine how exhausting it would be to finally finish my lineups, deadline passes, and then I have to start watching out for DNPs and buying and subbing. Sean was of the impression that, Sean argues that, like, your pre-deadline work is less. because you don't have to worry about risks. You just put them in and then you can late swap later. I disagree. Like, I think you actually end up having to do more. Like, if he doesn't play, I have to do this. If he plays, now I have this sub. Does he go somewhere? Like, there's a lot of work everywhere with it. And so I guess that was sort of my, like, how far can we, how much effort can this game take to play it reasonably well?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it can't be too much because a game's a game at the end of the day. Like, it shouldn't take over your life in most ways, even though people do play games all day and, like, you know, it consumes both of our lives in a lot of ways. Like, I'm not saying that it can't do that, but for most users, yeah, I don't think it should be something that, you know, they should be attached to all day, every day. Because as we know, screen time and all that, whatever, that's just a different story. But as far as what you said there, were like the sub situation for me, that, like, as somebody that doesn't want to do similar to you, like the whole late swap in, it doesn't eradicate DMPs, does it? Having a sub that could come in for any of your outfielders, because I know Sean was saying, like, it gets all funky, doesn't it? If the goalkeeper DMPs, it gets weird, right? But ultimately, most of the time, because there's just more outfielders than goalies. I know Hoodwin got stung by a goalie apparently up in the chat, but like most of the time, it's outfielders getting DMPs most of the time because it's just more of them, right? It's a numbers thing. So if there's any, it's not a solution, but it surely eradicates a little bit of the DMPs that we, you know, experience. And I'm not saying I'd love this to happen, but if anything happens, surely it has to be something pre-deadline, like you said, where you just slot a sixth player in. He could be any, you know, defender, midfielder, forward, and he just comes in if one of those 4 DMPs. Like, I think it's like a soft launch of a, like, you know, it's not something that's like incredibly complex. It's not something that, it obviously will affect leaderboards in some ways if somebody does get the DMP, but I just think it's just a nice bit of insurance. I'm not saying I definitely want this, and I think, you know, I'm going to be campaigning for it, but like, I think if anything happens, it has to be something like quite soft. It can't be something that, like you said, takes on so much more time of the user. Now, of course, you need bigger galleries to do that, which is not a bad thing for Sorare. Let's be real. Like, it fits into like you said, the collection thing yesterday, how, like, if you are going to do a swap, you know, in real life, you obviously can only play the players on your own team. So it's just like little things like that. Maybe that gets a bit complicated in some ways, but also it does encourage having bigger collections of teams, because, you know, I have my niece collection and I go double defender this weekend because they're at home. Well, you know, Dante, his kid's got to go to school and whatever. I don't know. He just can't make the game. Whatever the excuse is, well, then Bombito comes in. I just think there's a, again, like I said, I'm not like all in on this, but if there was something that, if someone said gun to my head, you have to choose one of these things, late swap, whatever, it would be this sort of soft launch sub situation where it's just a 6th man. Yeah, okay, it does require bigger galleries. Yeah, okay, you know, that could be forced into collections quite easily. That for me is the only solution, but it definitely doesn't eradicate things, which might be okay, because I don't think we'll ever get rid of them. Like, they're just a pest. Like, you just can't get rid of something. It's like,
I do wonder, like, for people who consider like the process of getting rid of DNPs, should the goal be no DNPs? Nobody ever has one. So every single lineup we have has the, you know, 5 scoring players, and like that's what we play. Or is it just like, not all DNPs are the same? And like Sean was saying, he had 90 something lineups this week. He had 3 lineups with DNPs, and he was like, but they weren't important. Like, knowing Sean, he would have fixed them. But like, if you get a DNP in your highest scoring lineup, like I sent you this with Sam Larson. Like, I had 4 very good scores, just needed him to play, and I get at minimum whatever the minimum card reward was. He doesn't play. I would want to sub in that lineup. Although pre-game week, I bet I wouldn't have even chose it. But we have to figure out like how far we're willing to go to get rid of DNPs, basically. And the collection idea, like the collection idea is easily manipulated also, because it's like, okay, you pick whatever the highest scoring player is from your collection in the same position as your DNP. And so what Sean does is he buys someone from, I'm trying to think of a reasonable team. So he buys someone from Barcelona, a forward from Barcelona who never plays, puts them in, And that guarantees him the highest score between Yamal and Rafinha. Guaranteed to hire one because it's like, oh, highest scoring player of this, and the kid didn't play, so you get your sub. And I just feel like they're like, I think collections make sense, like having a sub from your collection. But again, it's like, I don't think best score works, but something like, I don't know.
It's tough, isn't it? It's tough. I was just looking through my lineups. I think I had 23 lineups on the weekend. I had one DMP, which was Davinson Sanchez. I think he was on the bench, but he definitely didn't come off it. So like, but you know, that comes back to the strategy thing for me, where like, you know, I think one of the big things I learned from Sean quite early on was like, you know, play it safe, if that makes sense. Like if you've got somebody that, you know, you feel like is really nailed on, he's 90 on in your head, and you've got a 50-50, you know, you more often than not, you're probably better off going with a 90 guy, even maybe if he's not, you know, as peaky as the other guy. But then, you know, the game evolves, and then you go, well, you know, can you afford to play the 90%, you know, guy that's maybe only a 50 average, where like that 50-50 guy's a 65 or 60? And it's just like, can you take those safer routes anymore? That's I think that's one of the biggest things that maybe, you know, could be discussed. Like, can you afford to do that is kind of the issue, because you might not win anyway if you only have, if that guy just does a 50 for you, the one that plays, you know, the one that was 90 on, sorry. So there is that conversation to be had. Like, you know, how risk adverse do you want to get with these things? Does the 35 sub thing, you know, psychologically help? Like, it, if you think somebody is a risk, like, I don't know, maybe a Doku or Savio today, like, you know, they probably do start, but you just never know with Pep. And it's just like, it's such a case by case thing. But like, because the matchup is so good, you could argue they're very capable off the bench, and it's really tough. But it's forced me, going back to my original point, it's forced me to just be a bit more, just sort of a bit more safe with my picks, which can become a bit of a detriment to me, because maybe I'm not. The goal should be find the player who scores the most points, right? Where Sorare right now, realistically, is find the player who like definitely starts, and then you've just got to hit and hope. Where, you know, that is the big gripe I have with just like having to like avoid or work around DMPs, is like I'm finding myself going, but that guy's more nailed than that guy, even though that guy might score more than him. And that's the big thing for me, because surely this game should be about scoring the most points realistically, which is still is, you could argue, but you just got to be so much riskier now with your moves, I think.
Hoodwink said almost every single example people give have a loophole, and that's the main thing to avoid for me, which came right after William said people are talking as if they would swap 20 plus DNPs every day. You would get maybe one or two a weekend. It really doesn't seem that bad, depending on the solution, if they even have one. Like the ones that we talk about, you would end up like voluntarily taking DNPs in order to make the late swaps later. So like, yes, you may only have one or two now a weekend, but you, like the example I gave before, like you would play a clear zero so that once the lineup came out, you would know, like if Rafinha and Yamal were 50-50 to play, like you were saying, you probably move them down in your priority because you're like, I don't know if they're going to play. And now instead, if we have late swap, you play a zero, knowing that once their lineup comes out, you play one of those two who starts. And because you're choosing that strategy, you end up having to change lineups everywhere.
I was just thinking that, what if the guy you're playing, like it only applies if the guy isn't on the bench type of thing, but that wouldn't work with it, because you just buy literally somebody that's just like a 17-year-old in the Barcelona collection that literally doesn't play for the first team.
Exactly.
And you just throw him in. It's tough, isn't it? You can't really get around that. Like that, people gaming it.
Yeah. So like that is the easiest late swap manipulation move, is you have two players who maybe they play at the same time, or like their lineups come out at the same time. And with a lot of these single league formats, like you have multiple matches happening at the same time. So the lineups come out at the same time. And if you're between two players and you don't know if both are start, like you play the zero.
Yeah.
And then when the lineups come out, you know who to play. And while I like that eliminates DNPs, because it's like, you know exactly who's going to play.
Right.
The problem is that you're basically I hate to use the word forcing people to do it, but you're basically forcing people, if they want to compete with the highest scores, they have to do that for every game. And again, like I said it yesterday, like I would get rid of all my Asia cards because I'm asleep when they play. And I don't like, there are cards that I love in that I love waking up to great scores from Cecina, but I wouldn't want it.
You wouldn't wake up for it. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. I think I don't like that idea. I really don't like the fact that people would game it and like yeah, I don't like that at all.
A great line from Mike. It would at least give value to bad players.
That's a good point, actually. That is a good point. I really don't like that one. I just don't like anything that can be like games. I just don't think it's fair in that way. Even though everyone could do it, it's just kind of sort of the point of bringing it in. I just think it just becomes a bit stupid, and again, time wise, it just become ridiculous.
Skazma said I would run 3 lineups with the earliest playing goalkeeper of the week in each, either Friday or Saturday morning, and 4 DNPs. Then every match, I would wait for the lineup and play the best player to replace the DNP, and would prioritize whichever goalkeeper of the 3 scored best. It's too manipulatable, which I don't think is a word. Manipulatable? Manipulative? Maybe it is manipulatable.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really like that.
Is that really a word? My God, it is. Way to be, Skazmo. So how do you apply the collection sub to classic? I think I think it's fine. Somebody in your collection, obviously they have to be in the same competition. Like you can't put in a challenger guy in champ. But
for in season, though, that's an interesting one because the sub would have to be like, if we're talking about like the thing that I said I wouldn't mind happening, like the subs before lock, could you like, the sub would have to be in season, right? Because if the classic guy DMPs,
well, if it was from the same collection, then theoretically the whole collection would still be in season.
Right, but okay, I'm not on about the collection one necessarily. I'm just talking you can have a 6th man and it can be anyone on paper.
Yeah.
It would have to be in season, wouldn't it? Because if your classic guy DMPs, your classic midfielder, your classic Gross, Pascal Gross, DMPs, or in season Gross, yeah, you can't bring in the classic version of him or not him, but a similar player because then you've not got 4 in season players in a lineup, so that then gets a bit dicey.
Yeah, that's a good observation. Sorry, I keep going back to this manipulatable. So it's actually, the word is it just as, I feel like there's an extra.
Yeah, he's added a T. It's not table, it's label, if that makes sense.
Right. Manipulable,
yeah.
Instead of manipulatable.
That's funny.
Sorry. Love words. But I wasn't sure if that one was actually one. Yeah, there we go. That's what I meant. Yep. Totally get it. Word of the day. Yeah, I think that's like and frankly, I think that they should take this view for any potential rule. I'm not even talking about DNPs, but like if you're like, hey, what if we do this? They should literally just call Sean, because Sean has a gift for finding loopholes in rules.
Yeah.
Like instantly.
He's like a hacker for fantasy football games, basically. Like he'll just find the back door and
Yeah. There's a whole lot of just like, well, you didn't say it's this. So and it's like that's what he needs. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh. Interesting.
One is spelling, one is American. Anyway. But yeah, the topic today was a weird one for me, since Sorare Data like prides itself on making the game easier, but obviously the more complicated the game is, I don't want to say it's the better for us, but like we're in a position to make it easier. But the one that got me, and somebody was like talking about the notifications throughout the weekend. There's a difference between being notified that something happened and being notified that you have to do something. And that's different. Like I get notifications throughout the weekend when my players score or whatever, We all get them, whether
Right.
it's the Sorare app, Sorare, SofaScore, Flash or FOTMob, whatever the hell you use. But that's different than, hey, you have to do something in the next hour because then your DNP gets locked, and that's all we want. Quinny said earlier that basically like the number of times that he's somewhere and doesn't have cell service, and he's just like, how do I make? I'm now at a disadvantage in a fantasy football game because I don't have service on a Saturday.
It just gets so dicey, doesn't it? Like you do so much prep work in the week. There's a week, sorry. There's a deadline, and then there's more things. It just doesn't stop. Like there's literally, it's 24/7 at that point. If you do have a bigger gallery and you have players playing at all different times, I just don't think it becomes fun at that point. Like the fun for me starts when the deadline stops.
Same.
Like when the deadline's over, 3 p.m. in the UK, and it's just like, like now we'll just see what we'll see what happens. We'll see how it all unfolds. I'll be single. Yes, it would ruin a few marriages, wouldn't it? Let's be real. Maybe mine. I mean,
I feel like it almost takes away from being able to enjoy the football. And I think like Sorare has kind of made this game where we do all this work and then the deadline hits and then it's just like, go enjoy the football now. And obviously DNPs are not enjoyable, but I don't know. I feel like the break essentially is when we get to watch the football.
Exactly.
And I think Mike said it earlier, like, don't we all just start doing our lineups for the next game week as soon as the deadline hits? But I feel like with the way that midweeks are, like they're a little easier. So you do way more work for a weekend deadline than you do a midweek.
Right. Yeah. But midweeks, as we know, players that play both is just so tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
To get right.
After the we'd all be single in a month. Hoodwink, let's do it. Laura's watching. I'm joking.
Hi, Laura. That's amazing.
Would child support be payable in ETH and Essence? Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god. I don't know. I think we just have to accept it, I think. And yeah, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but yeah, I guess just move on to things that we can control, because a lot of this game is out of our control, isn't it? Like as much as, but you're playing with fire at the end of the day. Like you're playing with things that are very fickle. Like players can go down and players cannot play and players don't perform. Like there's so many things that are out of your control. But once you do get it right, once you do hit, I don't know if Jordan was in here, but Jordan from my member section got his one of his first podiums, I think, in a year or so, and like he's buzzing. Like you can't replicate that. You can't really replicate that. I mean, you can replicate it by doing it again, but I just mean like that feeling. It is one that you do chase after you've done it once, or if you've never done it. Like either way, but it makes the win sweet. When you do get it right, when you do get the 5 in, when you do get the 5 that pop off, you've just got to work towards that. And just they're not that as much as they are impactful. They're only impactful when they are. Like when you're in that position where you don't win the $5,000 like Sean doesn't. Like that. That's the big issue with them. But like I mentioned with you, 1 in 23 get lineups. Have I been a bit conservative with some of them? Probably, because that's just how I want to play the game right now. Is it optimal? I don't know, but I don't like playing with fire, unfortunately, and that's that's just how I do it. Yes, Jordan, great win.
So this actually came up today, and I'm curious how far you go. And this is probably a very loaded question, but I was talking to Keith this morning because we both have Messi rares. He might have 2 of them. And Messi plays at Columbus in the midweek. They play at Toronto at the weekend, which I believe is turf. I think it's actually, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just Vancouver.
Vancouver is definitely turf.
Yeah, maybe Toronto. Either way, midweek they played last weekend. Midweek, weekend, and he was like, he had a really good in-season challenger lineup for this midweek, which is mostly MLS. Might be only MLS actually. And he was like, do I take the risk on Messi? And I was curious, like how risky you would play that, and like how you tend to like look at risk in terms of players like playing them in priority lineups?
It depends on the level of the player, right? Like Messi, Cucho, these type of MLS guys, if we're keeping it MLS, like you just know, despite them maybe being a non-starter risk, if they're fit, they're obviously going to be in the squad at a minimum. So it's one of them where like you can take the risk on those type of guys. Can you take a risk on like an Alex Roldan, like, you know, to come off the bench and impact things? No. These things are really like positionally dependent, I would say. Like players who are very likely to get decisives off the bench at worst is like that, like this with the Messi situation. That's where like I would take the risk, because at worst he comes off the bench and maybe still gets DAs. But like for a defender, like it's just so unlikely for that to happen, to where like that is impactful in the five in your lineup. But for a midfielder, for a forward that you know at worst comes off the bench, yeah, you've got to take the risk. You really have to. Cucho's been similarly in the last couple of weeks. He was doing the 45-45 with Rossi, but he's still smashing off the bench. And you know, I would moan to you when he isn't starting, and then an hour later he's got.
And
two
what would
DAs.
I say, Harry? Every time, what would I say?
The same meme, wasn't it? It was the same meme every time. But it's still not a nice feeling when he doesn't start, because you just never know, do you? Because it's out. Yeah, like it's no better feeling than seeing the 35 when he's starting. Whereas if he's on the bench, like who knows if there's too many injuries and he can't come on because his 5 defenders got injured. Like there's things that can go out of your favor in that scenario, and he might not play. Chances are he will and come on. But yeah, with your Messis, with players that can come off the bench and impact things, I'm not as like worried. But if they're a defender, and the contemplation is like the 90% guy or like the 50-50 guy, even with like scores like 1 to 65, the 50-50, and the other guys are 50 average, unless he's on set pieces, unless he's like on penalties and stuff, like I just worry. Like I can't take the risk with a defender. Forwards different.
That's interesting. I never thought of it that way, but it makes sense. Hoodwink, who I feel like is the biggest proponent of, or proponent's not the right word. He recognizes, I think, more than anyone, or at least is the most public about it, that other people's DNPs benefit
100%. Oh,
is that you? That is you. Oh, sorry. I was like, is that me? Anyway, Hoodwink said DNPs can be just as impactful for the guys that don't have them as the ones that do. Losing great cash or rewards due to someone's sub coming in would hurt. And I brought that up to Sean. I can't picture the level of tilt Sean would have if he lost the podium from somebody who like brought a sub in and passed.
I'd pay to see that. That's content I'd pay to see.
Yeah, I think some of these more behind me.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, so like it's and I was kind of with Hoodwink on that the leaderboard becomes just like a second snapshot, that it doesn't really give you an idea of like where you actually sit. And it reminded me, this is funny that Hoodwink brought it up, of like when we had the delayed K-League scoring. And it was like you thought you were in a great spot, and then it was like Tuesday morning for me. Oh, K-League scores hit, and I went from like 17th to 112th, and I was just like, oh, all right, great.
Yeah, it would make like looking at, because I love looking at my scores and seeing where I might finish. Like I love tracking that over the weekend, but that becomes nil and void, doesn't it? Like you said, like it doesn't apply if there's subs and there's things that could affect it that you can't visually see in the 5, because obviously you add the extra scoring at the end. Like it does get really funky, and I do think we are just, yeah, it's mental gymnastics at the end of the day. It's a fun discussion to have, but ultimately, like, I don't think it benefits the game in the long run, realistically, as much as there's pain points with DMPs. I think we've just got to accept it, and yeah, and just hope you're on the better side of them than not.
Yeah. Skazma said, I kind of rely on some DMPs from Wales at the super rare level, which, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I'm that guy that like celebrates other people's DNPs, but if there's like a very popular player that I don't have in a competition I am in that DNPs, I'm sorry. I just don't feel bad, because I get them. Like I get the DNPs too. And it's just like, I don't expect anyone to feel bad for me. And so maybe I feel bad for you, but I'm also celebrating my own lineup.
Right.
I was going to go back to see. this past weekend? Were there any like huge DNPs?
Huge DMPs.
Like Bundesliga doesn't seem like they had any, at least among like the popular players.
Uh-huh.
Luke De Jong,
Luke
which,
De Jong was the big one.
but like he was known, wasn't he? Or he was
Not
possible.
He was possible, but like I don't think anyone well, clearly nobody 400 people like, and
Yeah.
even at Super Rare, like I was playing the Super Rare Dutch special, and like there was 10 of him in there. I think he was the second or first most played forward. So the scores would have been probably astronomical if maybe he did play and did something. I don't know what is annoying. You don't know which one it is.
Survey says.
Oh, that's the limited. No, yeah, here we go. Oh, that's All Star, isn't it?
Oh, that's right, All Star. So it was All Star, Eredivisie, and there was another.
Yeah, what would have been the other one? I don't even know.
Was there a capped one? Oh, the special, the hologram or
Like
whatever.
he was the 6th most used player. Never mind forward. And at Super Rare, there's not that many entrants. So I think there was like 70 entrants. So like 7 and 7 entrants are dead basically.
And this is by XP. So there were 10 cards, but so Timber had 9 and Biscagli had 8. I'm guessing there were a bunch of Biscagli captains, which put him like this is sorted basically by total XP.
Interesting. Okay.
Which is why like nobody captains Unnerstall. So there were 12 of him and 12.
Right.
Nobody's captaining Pasveer, but there's probably a bunch of Veerman, Biscagli captains. But yeah, De Jong. Like I think that was, I guess, not known, but it was possible.
Yeah, it was possible. I don't think. Yeah, I can't think of anything that was like. Son was kind of known, wasn't he?
Yep.
I can't think of anyone that was like
Isak
completely
was
out
too, right?
Isak, yeah, like a toe injury or something. There was definitely murmurs of something there.
Yeah, like he's not actually played at all here. Oh wait, here he is. 2, yeah.
De Jong got injured in the warm up. Interesting. See, I was
right?
under the impression that he was just rotated out for Champions League, but yeah, maybe.
I did too.
Interesting. Okay. Those do sting. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I think that was known. I'm pretty sure that Martinez won. Anything in contender?
I went to U23 first, but
don't think much happened in U23, like DMP wise.
This guy really is just awful, huh? Atabolu?
Yeah, I'm not sold on him, to be honest, at all. Suzuki had a tough day as well. Ekatike, what happened with him? Was that known?
I remember people talking about it. Yeah, here we go. Leg injury. I
remember
people discussing it.
Really? Maybe.
But I don't know if it was like 100% known.
Yeah, Trubin played.
Yeah, Trubin played. Sorry, you said contender.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anything in like, Russia or... No, nothing. Hatate came off the bench. But okay, obviously wasn't a DMP.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't seem like much.
No.
We just talk about DNPs on the week where there really were none.
I know, yeah. Great week to bring them
So
up.
we said the wife went into labor DNPs are the one that really, really sting. I think he's had like 3 or 4 of them.
We need to make like a serious bingo card, don't we? A DMP bingo card and have all the obscure excuses why these footballers don't play football and do their job.
Matthew said I had De Jong and Gald in the same Division 1 lineup. Hello, Division 2.
Gold, was that known? So didn't someone say, wasn't it Sean that said like he was on the injury report as down as like a hamstring injury, but he hurt his calf? There was like
yeah. That's exactly what he was on the injury report.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there were 142 Galds though. He was questionable though. He wasn't. He wasn't out.
But that comes out after the deadline, so it's not as if that helps, right?
I'm
pretty. On the weekend, they definitely come out after the MLS communications. Yeah.
Just Mike had said I had Bruno and Bart in D1. You almost wish they DNP'd.
I know, yeah.
Well, Bart scored the same, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was like 0 or 4.
So we said in the spring there were 3 consecutive weekends for me with the paternity DNP.
Yeah, it's a killer. Absolute killer.
Ricardo said I missed Challenger D1 because of the Gall DNP. I had 380 with 4 players.
It's a real killer.
Victor said Neymar, the most infamous one for that, I think, was his sister's birthday, always in the injury list. Yeah. Actually,
March.
he was, yeah. The fact we know that is great. I feel like his was always yellow card suspensions. I feel like he was smart enough not to like pretend to be injured.
No, he did enjoy a little injury, but yeah,
Didn't
you're
he?
right. There was a few kickouts and stupid reds, and
Yeah. There might have even been one where he took his shirt, like he knew he was one yellow away and took his shirt off.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know. We got anything else on a making the game harder or not?
I think the game's hard enough as it is.
I agree.
In a lot of ways, isn't it? But that makes it. I think that's why I got attracted to it, because it was just so much more complex than anything that I'd ever really played before in like Football Index days. Like, it was very linear and didn't really do much. You just bought players and just waited until they played, which is, you've got there's strategy involved in this in a lot of ways, and a lot of it is in your control, i.e. the 5 players you choose or don't choose. But ultimately, them playing well, them not playing well is, of course, always going to be out of our hands. And yeah, that I think we just like to play with fire. Like, otherwise we wouldn't be playing this game in that sense. And
yeah, I guess the way that I like it is I like being able to spend as much time as I want leading up to the deadline, and I don't necessarily want to do that on the weekends. It's really a social thing for me. Like, it really, really is. And I say that not as somebody who like goes out and parties all the time, but like being able to separate, I think, is healthy for me at least.
yeah,
And so having to like keep checking on the weekend is I just hope it doesn't happen.
I'd be very shocked if they did bring it in. Very, very shocked. Unless it benefited them, like financially in some way. I just don't get why else they would do it. Yeah.
Super Totoro said, isn't the simplest compromise to put out a lineup of 6, one sub slot, and is applied only when there's a DNP? So we talked about this yesterday. The difficulty with that is you end up having the potential to have like 2 forwards, 2 midfielders, and a goalie, or 3 forwards, or your goalie DNPs and your sub is not a goalie. So then you still have it. And so there's that.
Yeah.
I am going to plug something right now. Just Mike said, needed to make a show for Teach Mike how to do lineups with Harry. Harry will build your lineups for you over on his channel. Harry, tell the people all about this phenomenal resource here.
That's actually a funny story, like to do with Mike, because Mike's been, a channel member for months now. And similar to you, doesn't really, want to take up on the perks that are, involved in that, which is, the Discord, the lineup builds and the gallery reviews. But Mike popped into the stream yesterday and he was having a bit of trouble. He wanted second thoughts basically on his midweek lineup. So I was like, get yourself into the Discord, because like I can tell he's a member. Obviously, he has the little thing, and it's I know he is, because he's always been a supporter and stuff. And I was like, just get yourself in the Discord, because there's so many of us in there would like give you second opinions. And I also I built his midweek lineups. We had a good chat for an hour or so yesterday, and even this morning I sent him some Rodrigo news, and hopefully we ended up. I think we came to a compromise. I don't think he went with the exact same lineup. I think he went with 3 or 4 like of the main ones that I really wanted him to do for his first lineup. The goalkeeper was the sticking point, which I completely understood. But we have a lot of fun building lineups every game week in the Discord on stream, and then monthly gallery reviews were yesterday, which was fun. I think we did 3 hours 40.
So I got a notification that it started. I started watching it. I watched for an hour. I left for like 90 minutes. I came back and Harry was still going.
Yeah, and we had a couple of new members join as well. So like I, obviously did gallery reviews to them as well. So like, it probably would have been maybe hour 3 hours and 20 if we didn't get a couple of the new ones join. But that's kind of why I do them live, because people can see me doing it. And but I've been doing it for, I think it's 10 months now. I think we started it 10 months ago, the member section. And I think I need to change the emotes or the emojis, because like they kind of become not stale, but like I need something for like the year anniversary. That'll be fun. But nice. It's been a good little for me as like from a community standpoint, I can't believe like how much enjoyment I get out of being in. Like I'm in multiple Discords, like I will just disclose, but like the one that we've built in the member section, like even just seeing people chat about Sorare together, like I'm not even involved in it, like I'm just watching from afar, even though I do get involved all the time. Like it just brings me like joy because I know there's people out there that play this game quite like in a lonely way, which is fine if you want that. But if you are seeking, you know, like a community or whatever, like not to say that you have to be part of some sort of member section, you have to pay for that privilege. I'm sure you can get it for free. Like I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but like I just think the Discord alone is like the biggest thing for me. Never mind the other things. So yeah, I love doing it, and yeah, it's kept me busy, which I want to be basically. So yeah, I appreciate you. Let me talk about that.
Yeah, so actually, I was going to pull up your page, or this is it. If anybody wants to go to Harry Trades on YouTube, I just feel super trolled by seeing Alexander Schultz right here.
He was a reward. Come on. He was one of my. I still own him, actually. Yeah, one of my.
Get him out.
I know.
Anyway, thank you everybody for coming. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. Go over to the Harry Trades YouTube channel. You're probably already subscribed, but if you're not, go subscribe, become a member, get in the Discord, and let Harry improve your Sorare gallery. So, Harry, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Oh wait, tomorrow, me and Surfula, who was Mr. Contender, has been playing in-season Prem this season. And he, in his words, completely blew it, but has now realized all of his mistakes. And so he's going to go through his mistakes and what he's doing now to teach everyone how to be successful at in-season Prem. Come back tomorrow. I'll see you then.